Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 13 of Confessions of a Market Maker. I'm your co-host, Ray, aka All Day Ray, aka Tony Tough Nuts. And I'm here with my witty co-host, former market maker of 20 years, a man who's pillaged retail traders so he could buy $2,000 European shoes that never fit his gorilla feet. A man who on numerous occasions has been mistaken for a CFL offensive lineman, aka JJ Luther, the proper villain. I'm talking about JJ. JJ, how's it going?
Good, Ray. Jeez.
You
have way too much free time.
I mean, either that or I'm just, quick off the head, however you look at it. And today, our guest, a man who is held in high regard in the trading community, a full-time trader since 1999, an aspiring novelist, husband, father of four. I mean, literally, I'm just reading his Twitter bio because I'm lacking creativity on this one. I'm talking about Tom Canfield, a.k.a. Canny. Tom, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Very happy you joined us. Very grateful. So what's his deal with the aspiring novelist?
Yeah, I've wanted to write a novel for a long time. I love to read, and I guess I started reading really actively probably about 10 or 12 years ago. I really got into it, and then I got pretty inspired by what novels could do in terms of expanding your horizons in life, in terms of how you think, and just broadening your thought process and whatever. And it's a great way to explore feelings and emotions and all that stuff. And I just think it's cool how writers are able to take you on so many different trips and adventures, both actively as well as psychologically, to explore a lot of your own feelings, because you put yourself in the position of a character and go, well, what would I do, or how would I feel about that, and whatever. And so you're kind of exploring yourself through the process. And I just think it's neat how some of the really good writers do that. And so I've always it's kind of what started my whole Twitter thing is my love for writing my thoughts about what I think in my head and getting them down on paper in kind of a creative, captivating way, so to speak. And so that's sort of where that comes from. And so I've got a couple of ideas that I've bounced around for a long time that I've sort of tinkered with and outlined, but I've never really been at a place in my life where I can sit down and actually do it. So I'm still aspiring.
Yeah, man. And definitely good luck with that. Like, so are you talking straight novels, or do you like any nonfiction?
I read biographies occasionally. I don't really read any trading books anymore. I've read a bunch of them. I don't like very many of them. They're all super boring. I did like Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, which is a phenomenal book, but it's also a bit of a story. So, because there's that human condition that gets brought into it. So that's probably my favorite. And I've also thought, I've got a book outlined that I would write about trading and stuff. And I keep trying to think of creative ways to express my ideas and maybe put it in the form of a story or something like that. So.
Good deal. So
anyway.
I know. I just want to get for the audience just a brief frame of reference. We don't have to dive too deep into it. I just want to ask you a little bit, about your early days of trading. Especially trading. You said you
Sure.
Since '99. I know maybe you said you started dabbling in '97. With the technological advances, what were the difficulties? What was the landscape like back then?
Well, we had the internet, which was one of the reasons that it got me back into it. So I had access to the markets, but it was a lot more rudimentary than it is now. You're operating off of we were operating off of a dial-up modem service. So your whatever speed that was next to nothing. So charts really couldn't do more than they would just be basic bar charts and stuff like that. And everything that you have now, it was just 10 times more simple. Like, I don't think I had, I mean, they didn't have level 2 stuff, the ability to do all kinds of different fancy orders and stuff like that. None of that stuff existed. So you had to be, it was pretty much, I guess it was point and click, but it was much slower. Your internet service broke down all the time. So you'd have gaps in data and whatever. But that was probably, by the time we got to about 2000, it was getting better pretty quickly. I remember in 97 and 98, it was still rough, but big improvements.
I mean, it had to be a little tilting, like being in a trade
occurred
and getting disconnected. Was it not?
It was awful. Well, and it was one of the reasons that I ended up migrating to swing trading, because the emotion that having your service all of a sudden disconnect on you while you're in the middle of a trade as a day trade. I was a lot younger back then, and I didn't handle it very well. And so it now it's easy with everything that we have, or at least the technology's easy. I don't know that the environment is easy, because I think that there's some benefits to having learned back in the late 90s and early 2000s that I think that the landscape is so different now because there's so much information out there that I think it overwhelms people. It was a lot simpler back then. So
yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Like, I mean, so what resources did you go to? Was it just books? I mean, was there any like online stuff at that time?
Yeah, there was this site called tradingmarkets.com. Yeah, and there were about 5 or 6 guys who would do like daily write-ups and whatever, and that was like the only thing that existed. Kevin Haggerty and Larry Connors and let's see, Gary Palm was on there for a while and stuff, and there were a bunch of other guys that were doing a bunch of other things that I really didn't care about. But they would kind of write. Jeff Cooper was on there also, who's still out in the world doing a lot of trading. And so I learned a lot from just kind of reading and getting an understanding of how their minds worked and how they saw things and whatnot. But when it came down to the nuts and bolts of trading, I had to sort of figure it out on my own. I'm thankful that I had a mentor. His name's Pat. His name still is Pat Walker. He actually is on Twitter, and he runs a service teaching, CAN Slim and IBD stuff, which is sort of the origin of my strategy that I have traded for probably the last 20 years. He taught me for a couple of years and taught me a ton of amazing stuff, but I didn't really take off with my trading until I left him and just listened to my own brain. Because until you learn how to hear your own voice, you're never going to be able to be convicted about the type of trades that you're taking. It is so important. And I will pound the table on this, because the problem in today's world is that there are so many educators and so many people teaching and so many people giving ideas and so many people that want to trade who are absorbing all of this, and they keep trying to find the next chunk of information that's going to help get them over the edge. And every single person that asks me, I say, get away from all of it. Get away from all of it. Sit in a room with your computer. You already know how to trade. You know everything you need to know already. I promise you. All you have to do is sit down and figure it out between your own 2 ears, and figure out your emotions and figure out the process and see it for yourself, and stop letting other people influence the way that your brain works.
Powerful.
Because we all bring a different set of tools mentally, emotionally, and physically to the table. We're all messed up in our own ways. We all have our own demons. We all have our own dysfunctions, addictions, whatever the hell they are. But we bring them all to the table, and it's a unique collection that nobody else can duplicate. So you got to figure out how to live with your shit. For lack of a better phrase, you got to learn.
Very true.
A, you got to figure out what your shit is, and then B, you got to figure out how to make the market work for you, given that you have all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
So how you trade something is going to be completely different than how somebody else trades it, even though you've been taught the exact same way and you're looking at the exact same thing. That's just the reality of trading, and it's why it's so personal, and it's why it's so intimate, and it's why each person's path is so unique. So
it can be a
and I think now everybody, the disadvantage of now is that there's too much information and too many people telling you what to do, and you can get on Twitter and you can scroll it, you got all these people going, just did this, nailed it, just did this, nailed it, looking at this, check this out, and it's like information overload.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so the more of a cocoon that you can create for yourself, I promise you, the better off you're going to be. I don't need 15 stocks to work. I need 2, And so I can make a living off of my own ideas. And everybody has to get to where they can make a living off of their own ideas. Otherwise, they're never going to get there. So anyway.
Yeah,
that's a whole episode in and of itself, because I could really get going.
I mean, even for myself, relating, what you're talking about to my experience in poker, that, there'd be times I'm playing a hand and I'm thinking not about what I think about the hand. I'm thinking about how someone I learned from, what would he do in this spot?
Yeah.
How would he look at the situation? Instead of, developing my own, whatever you call it, my own intuition, for lack of a better term.
Instinct.
Instinct, right. It's it's a very tricky thing, especially like you said, with the abundance of resources. And so, with that being said, Tom, like, you come across, like, you're not like what do people call them, like these trading gurus. You don't come across like these type. You're not like posting your P&Ls. You're not posting trading at in exotic locations. With the women in the bikinis all around you. Like, how did you, how'd you want, like, it's popular on Twitter? How'd you get such a large following?
It's a great question. I'm not really sure, to be perfectly honest with you, because most of the time all I do is talk about my losers and the mistakes I make. And, people probably sometimes read my feed and they're like, how in the hell does this guy even make money? And sometimes I ask
exactly.
Sometimes I ask myself the same question. But I guess I first got on there. Well, I'll be blunt. I first got on there because I was lonely. Because trading is a lonely business.
It is.
And I had been sitting at my desk completely isolated for years. And when I all of a sudden discovered that there was this community of traders that bounce ideas around and that are out there that you could connect with, because I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and there might be 7 traders in the greater St. Louis area, and I only know of one other and have no idea who the other 5 are. There's just and if you go out into social circles and whatever, nobody gets what we do. Nobody does.
Exactly.
It drives it, and it's like for a while I would tell people I'm an accountant. I don't even want the conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
It's impossible. Yeah, it's impossible.
And okay, here's what happens when you're 53. I totally lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
You were Tom. You're talking about talking to people about trading and how they have no idea.
Oh yeah. But before that, where were we? Because I took myself off of my own point. And I do this a lot.
Now you're messing me up, Tom. You're talking about 7 people trading in the St. Louis area.
He was talking about why he's popular on Twitter, and I was
saying, that's right.
Because he tells the truth.
Right. First of all, I was lonely. Second, there we go. Now we're on a roll. Now, thank you. I got to take notes or something. What you're talking about? I was lonely. And then I started seeing all these guys and kind of, making comments here and there and following who the big traders were. And I was just as guilty going, oh, well, geez, they're big traders. I better, But then I started looking at some of the stuff that was coming through. And I'm like, oh my God, these people are so full of shit. They're making this sound like it's so easy.
Yeah.
They're making it sound like and look like and feel like, I'm 27 years old and all I need is $20,000. And in a few years, I'm going to be, on a beach somewhere. And it's just so not that way. And so I kind of started getting my own thoughts of what I thought about the market and discussing how damn hard this job really is on a day in and day out basis and what it really takes to actually consistently be successful in this job. And the fact that it's just not anywhere close to as easy as people make it appear. And so I really wanted to start pushing back against some of the fluff that was out there and some of the misrepresentation of just exactly what it is that we do. And so it just kind of grew out of that because I think it resonated with a lot of people. Because let's face it, you're there and you're hearing all these different people that seem like they know what they're doing stuff, and you go and you try what they tell you to do and you get your ass handed to you. And you're like, well, what? And so that's kind of, so I got honest. And I got honest about my failure because it's like, I don't need to tell you guys about my success. That doesn't help you.
Exactly. My
good trades don't help you. They just don't. But my screw ups, I'm really working on it, guys. My mistakes, those can help you. Because here's the other thing that happens. So many new traders, all they do when they're rolling through those streams, I don't care where it is think, what's wrong with me? Yep. Why can't I get it? Everybody else seems to be making a killing. What's wrong with me? And the reality is there's nothing wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong. You're perfectly normal, and everything you're experiencing, everybody else is experiencing too.
Yep.
We all suck.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're all making mistakes. It's just that you've got egomaniacs that are only showing you their good trades. You've got guys that are only posting the good stuff. And hell, half the time you don't even know if it's true or not. Or you've got guys that are posting things after the trades have already gone or after a move has already gone, demonstrating how had you taken it right here, you would have had all this.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, I can go back and do that. It's like, is that all it takes? It's like, because the reality is it just doesn't work like that. And there's an awful lot of pain involved, and there's an awful lot of failure involved, and there's an awful lot of rejection that's involved, and there's an awful lot of soul searching that's involved. And there's an awful lot of, you're shriveled up on the floor crying. You feel like you're worthless. You feel like you can't get it done. And what I wanted to say to everybody is, hey, you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not abnormal. This is really hard. This isn't easy. This is really hard. Yep. And if you can't make it, number one, it's okay because most people don't. And if you do, it's going to be by the skin of your teeth. And it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life.
It is. It really is.
And so I guess my feed just kind of extended out of that. And it still evolves. And I don't talk about how I trade because I don't think it matters. How I trade doesn't matter. How I think matters. How I process my emotions matter. How I accept what a moron I am matters, because that's universal. It's universal to every trader, whether you're trading futures, currencies, stocks, whether you're a day trader, a swing trader, a position trader. Your baggage is universal in terms of the fact that we've all got it. we're all fucked up.
Yeah.
We're all dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so all of us can benefit from being challenged from the standpoint of understanding ourselves. And, I've gone on little speeches where I talk about getting to know your demons and taking them out to lunch and learning who they are and having drinks with them and stuff like that, just kind of making jokes about it. But the point is you don't overcome them. You don't get rid of them. Yeah. You just figure out how to live with them and make them either work for you or at least not work against you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so for you, Tom, how did you develop that? How do you do that?
Well, there's a lot of ways to develop, and it's still a work in progress. But I had to become a swing trader because I simply was not emotionally mature enough to day trade. I tried day trading. I wanted to be a day trader so bad I could barely stand it. And I blew up so many accounts day trading because I emotionally could not control myself when I started.
Tom, how long did it take you to realize that?
About $50,000.
Oof.
Really fast. Originally, it was 2 different futures accounts. I started actually trading futures with zero knowledge.
Wow.
I think the first $10,000 account took me 6 weeks. And the second one, probably more like 8 or 9 weeks. And then I realized maybe there's something else I need to look into doing. And got back more into stocks and tried to day trade stocks, but still no premise. I had no foundation of what I was doing. But I realized as soon as I found swing trading that there was a much more mechanical swing trading is much more mechanical because now you're working off of slower time frames. You're working off of daily charts. You're working off of pictures of a full day. Yeah. And so decision making can be clear because guess when you can analyze those charts and make decisions? At nighttime. Market's not open. Everything's quiet. Your brain is quiet. It's not screaming at you. And you can make better decisions. And so I started to work on that. And I studied charts, daily charts, hours and hours and hours and hours every single day. Into the wee hours of the morning, sitting with my laptop, scrolling through charts, finding bars and moves and analyzing them and figuring out what was the commonality between that move and this move, all off of daily charts. And then Pat Walker came into my life and he added a whole nother layer onto it that made incredible sense to me. And that really became the foundation of what I did. I mean, I became a momentum swing stock trader. I was trading, I would hold stocks from about 3 to 10 days and find those explosion moves, and I got pretty good at it. And most of my work would be done analyzing it at night. For me, the other issue is I got 4 kids. And when I started trading, my youngest I don't think my youngest was even born yet.
Wow.
No, he wasn't. And my oldest was about 4, and we had 3 of them in diapers, and so it was a little chaotic. And then as they got older, all 3 of my boys got really actively into hockey and got pretty good. And so we're traveling all over the country, and I'm coaching and whatnot, and that became a huge part of our life. And so trading was never the priority in my life. It just couldn't be, because I really wanted to be a dad. And so swing trading lended itself to my ability to do that, because I could do my work at night after they went to bed, and I could kind of check things during the day in the market and whatever. But to day trade effectively, you've got to have that continuous flow of kind of knowing and feeling what's going on in the market on a regular basis, in my opinion, at least. And I say that now because as my youngest just left for college, and so My wife and I are empty nest now, and I have so much more time on my hands again. I always wanted to be a day trader. And so I have migrated back over the last year, slowly but surely, actually to day trading. And it's a whole lot easier this time around than it was back then. And a lot of it has to do with, I've got a lot of experience now. So I have a better sense for what it is I'm trying to do and what I'm looking for. And two, the foundation that I've always used for swing trading, define your environment, define your candidates, define your triggers. It's exactly the same. It's just completely different time frame. And now I'm doing it more with major stocks, working off of futures, and everything, which is stuff that I always monitored and did in conjunction with my swing trading, but I never traded that stuff. Now I'm actually trading it. And I love it because it's a lot less, it's lower risk, it's lower stress. It frees me up to do a lot of other things because I got a lot of other interests that I want to explore now in life. But because the overnight risk finally wore me out over time. And that's stuff that we can delve into a little bit more, but it's just the cumulative risk as you grow and your pot gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you keep taking bigger and bigger positions. I found my limit of where I could, that I couldn't get past. And the nature of the market's a lot different than it used to be. Starting in about 2016, I really noticed it.
Yeah, me too.
And since then, I have found overnight risk to be a lot harder to deal with than it used to be. A lot gappier because markets are more global, and so everything that's going on around you, part of it's because of all the news. It's not like it's changed. It's just everything's immediate now.
Exactly.
I think algorithmic trading has put an impact on that because it makes the gaps bigger, both positively and negatively, and therefore it causes stock behavior to be different. Obviously, all the tweeting and everything certainly makes things really interesting over the last year or two. But if you're day trading, you can use that stuff to your advantage. And when you're swing trading, you're like, well, how do I get myself out of this mess that is totally unexpected and stuff? And so I got tired of that. And I wasn't making as much money, quite simply. I was struggling to achieve the same numbers that I had achieved for a lot of years. And so, the other side of it, and this may sound kind of crass and weird, is I got bored, which probably contributed to my performance. Trading got stale to me. It was the same thing every single day. The process was the same, and I could only maintain that for certain periods of time. I know I'm rambling, but
yeah, no. I mean, there's no great stuff. I mean, exactly. I mean, if you're, because I find that for myself too. I mean, like if you're not into it, like, and if it's boring, like that's come up with me numerous times in poker, and I'm just flinging money around. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Yeah, it's not conducive.
Well, but to use the poker analogy, because one of the things that I think is so important for young traders to understand is that environment, nothing else matters if you don't have the right environment for your style.
Exactly.
Nothing matters. So assessing the environment, understanding the environment, and understanding what you are doing in relation to that environment is so paramount. And I have so many people that don't seem to get this when I talk to them about it. They're like, well, this is, you said do this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, but the environment's totally different. Right now, you should be doing nothing.
Exactly.
That trade's not going to work right now.
Yeah.
It might work. It might work in 2 months, but that trade's not working right now.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't tell me that. I'm like, well, environment makes a huge difference. When I was swing trading, and I'm swing trading growth, momentum growth stocks, there's literally 2 to 4, and I'm a breakout trader. There's literally 2 to 4 times during the year for somewhere between 3 and 5 weeks where that style pays and pays really well.
Okay.
And then the rest of the year, it doesn't pay you crap.
Got it.
Because everything's a stuff. The breakouts are false. You've got to flip and become a pullback trader. And you've got to be able to sense that and know that and understand what your environment is.
I mean, that's got to be mentally, it's going to be tough mentally, man.
When I was running around the country with my kids playing hockey and had all kinds of other things going on so that I could look and go, yeah, the environment's not right. I got tons of other stuff I got to go do. And so I'm just not trading this month. It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But as I've built more freedom into my life and I like to trade, I was finding, it's like, okay, well, I know this isn't a good environment, but I've been trading for 20 years. So I'm a pretty smart guy. I can wing it and make something work here. Yeah. That thought process doesn't work out real well.
No, it does not.
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
And so understanding your environment is essential. Why do I day trade now? Because the environment for day trading, now you have to change your methodology a little bit here and there, but there's always opportunities by and large that are created on a daily or at least on a weekly basis where you don't have these huge dry runs where there's nothing going on, or at least nothing going on for your style. But I would make all of my money in 3 months, and I would spend the other 9 months working my ass off not to give it back. And that's pretty much, usually January was really good. Usually one of the months, February, March, or April was good. One of the months between May, June, and July was good. August usually sucked. September usually sucked. And you usually had a decent stretch somewhere after a low was made in October. You had a stretch where things were pretty good going into the end of the year. And that's how it worked. And it used to be like that pretty consistently. It's not quite that way anymore. So,
well, that is definitely, like, when you talk about things, like when it swings well into the end of the year, I always remember Eddie Murphy in Trading Places, because you're always, everyone wants to mark up those positions so they can get the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu belt.
Yep.
Right. Year end, right? Bonuses, things like that. So we've got to make the books look good, It's I always think about that one.
But it's a lot of downtime. The reality is that method is a ton of downtime.
It is.
And it got stale for me.
Yeah.
I know that may be hard to hear, but it got, I'm like so jazzed doing this new trading the way that I'm trading now. It took me about a year to figure it out. And so I can flip a switch and swing trade when that stuff lines up so quickly, because it's just like, it's riding a bike for me.
Yeah.
And I still do the work every single week and still do my scans and still create my list, because my master list is what tells me what the environment is.
Nice.
It helps me understand whether we're in a situation where things are healthy or they're not healthy, or to stay away. And it's helping me as I'm doing my day trading, because it helps me understand if I'm in a choppy market or if I'm in a market that wants to run.
That's like a page right out of Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, the way Livermore kept track of his lists.
I'm maniacal about it, and it usually ends up being somewhere between 35 and 50 stocks by the time I'm done with it, that I define that meet my criteria of the leaders, which are the growth leaders of that period, whatever they are. A lot of software stocks have been that way for a while, but they've been getting creamed the last handful of days or whatever. But I can get a better sense for what's going on in the market and what might be going forward for the market just by looking at those 35 to 50 stocks and seeing how they're doing and seeing how they're acting and seeing how they're behaving on a daily basis. And so probably 2 to 3 times a week after the market closes, I just scroll through that list and I look at them just to get a vibe. Are we still healthy? Are we not healthy? Are things fraying at the edges? Because the other thing is, as I keep that list, even when the market's in a downturn and I'm keeping that list, all of a sudden I'll start seeing stocks firing off and starting to look really strong way before the market turns. So it's
interesting. Got it.
So it's always worked kind of as a very good leading indicator from that standpoint, but it's also a really good indicator when we're getting a little long in the tooth on the upside.
Yep.
Because the leaders are the first ones that they start taking out. And this happened a year ago, last September, right at this time. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, all the leaders started to fail. And they started bidding up stuff like energy and some of the bottom feeder sectors of the time to support the S&P.
Okay.
Which is kind of what has been happening over the last 4 or 5 days. Now, that doesn't mean anything because it could just be rotation and whatever because semiconductors have been strong and whatever. But what you saw last year was all of a sudden I'm looking at my charts and I'm going, I don't see anything I want to buy anymore. But the market keeps going up. And all my charts of the stocks that I love look like crap. And so I'm out. So I sold everything and that worked out well. But I've never found a better indicator. I've looked all over the place and I've never found a better indicator for me than that list that I cultivate. I do it every Sunday night. Takes me about an hour to go through all my scans and then purify it and kick out all the bad stocks that I don't like. And it usually comes down to somewhere between 35 and 50 stocks. And I know those stocks. And the list doesn't change that much from week to week. Maybe 5 fall off and 5 new ones come in and whatever here and there. But during a cycle of strength, they will stay pretty much the same. And so
fascinating.
That's how and so from there I kind of have a handle on how I feel about the environment. And right now I've gone to more cautious footing because I don't have anywhere near as many of those charts that look decent. And a lot of them look like shit. So that doesn't mean that it's, it can either mean we're headed for correction or we're just going through a choppy rotation period where new growth sectors are going to come along and take the lead. So
got it. Okay. That's interesting. As you're talking and talking about these sectors and different stocks giving out warnings, I'm sort of, because I've only been a retail trader 4 years before it was completely, as a manipulator for, fund guys and promoters. So learning retail for me has been fascinating. And thank God I found Market Profile because, the amount of work that you do probably to have come up with that list and realized how it works during cycles and rotations. I kind of look at Market Profile that way to tell me, when the market's getting too heavy, it'll show it, or if it's on bad structure, it'll show it. But it's, that's what I was thinking about when you were talking. But I can see how it's taken you that period of time to develop that sort of methodology,
Right. It took a lot of years,
Yeah.
And you keep playing with scans and tweaking them to try and find just, the right mix
Mm-hmm.
Of the names that are going to fairly represent what the true tone of the market is. And it's by no means, foolproof, but it has helped me tremendously in terms of guiding me when to be aggressive and when not to be aggressive. And so that's been
for all you new traders. Sorry, I just got to say, for all you new traders out there listening to this, not to date ourselves, but this is how old school traders do the work, and it's not glamorous, and it's not, it's something that you have to really enjoy the process to do, because it takes time. I mean, he does his hour on Sunday night, but I'm sure he does, if you're, he's trading actively, I'm sure, you look at stuff every night.
Yeah.
And we have a process and that discipline where we don't just sit down in front of a computer and start making money. It doesn't work that way. So I just wanted to sort of bring that to life. And I'm not trying to tell people not to start trading, because it's a lot of work. It is, but it is very, very gratifying when you.
But JJ,
figure
you've
it out.
got to be, you've got to be obsessively curious.
That's true. That's
in your
true.
first 5 years, it's like looking for the needle in the haystack, and you're not going to find it because somebody else told you where it was.
Very true.
What I had to do, or what I did do, is and I use MarketSmith is the software platform that I use to do all this stuff in.
Okay.
And I would take their charts, and I would look at a chart, whatever it was, and I would find a move on a given stock that I said, that's the kind of move I want to find. And then I would literally back that chart up. And I mean, I would do this for hours and hours and hours, day after day after day after day. And I would back that chart up so that I couldn't see the move to the day right before the move occurred. And I would stare at it. And I would just stare at it. And then I'd find another one, and I would line them up, and I would just stare at these charts. And I know that the next day, that stock explodes for 5% on 3 times average volume, and then takes off for another 15% in the next week. What am I looking at right now that tells me that there's a good chance that might happen? Because I can't see it. So you just play this game where you find the explosive moves. And then you back it up, and you look at the week, the month, the 3 months, the 6 months prior to that move. And I would do this constantly, trying to find the common link. Is there a common link that allows me to get into these moves, that lets me find these moves, so that when they start to happen, I know what's happening, and I can aggressively attack it? And it took me forever. And I still don't know that I found enough clues that allowed me to take advantage of enough of these moves over the years to make a living. But it wasn't pretty. It wasn't glamorous. It was a lot of fucking hours.
Yeah.
And a lot of work. And
it is.
And so you have to be obsessively curious, and you sure as hell better enjoy it.
Exactly.
You better enjoy trying to find a needle in a haystack. Yeah. It's not, God, I want to make a shit ton of money. It's going to drive you to do that.
No, exactly.
You got to have something in your gut that says, I like figuring shit out. I like finding things that other people don't find. I like to be different. I like to be better than the next guy. Yeah. And
yeah, for me, it was, I always loved mechanics, taking things apart and how they worked. And when I got to work on the institutional side, I was in the bowels of the system and clearing and things like that. So, I learned, how to be a mechanic. I was like a stock mechanic. People would come to me with a broken stock, and I'd fix their stock because some promoter had trampled all over it or something like that. Or they'd come to me to engineer a short squeeze or something like that. So I'd set that up. So I took that to retail trading, and that's kind of how I think. But yeah, definitely. And I do spend a lot more hours than I probably should looking at charts.
Well, but it's because we like it.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, I still like it.
That's true.
I look at them a little differently today than I used to. And they trade differently than they used to trade.
Mm-hmm.
Which has been an adjustment, and why for swing trading, you need follow through. You have to have follow through to be successful at swing trading. So you've got to find patterns that coil, and give you and because it's all about volatility. It's like you go from volatility expansion to volatility contraction to volatility expansion again. It just goes. It's like an accordion.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to find those charts where it expands and it contracts and it expands and it contracts, and then it needs to contract in a certain way with a certain type of volume pattern. And you don't find as many of those contraction patterns as you used to.
Yeah.
It's interesting, at least right now. And that may all change because every cycle has its season, and the market has a lot of different faces that it wears. And this is just an interesting face that it's got on right now. But for day trading, I don't need follow through momentum.
Yeah,
I need follow through from yesterday to this morning until 9:15.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fine because I'm trading institutional stocks. I'm not trading low float stocks. I don't get that market. I think that thing, you understand that market really well because you rape people left and right with it. So, and I'll let you, sit in your rocking chair later in life out on the porch and see how you feel about yourself with respect to all that. That's on you.
Well, why do you think I'm training new traders?
Bringing your karma back into balance is exactly what
I'm trying.
You're doing a great job, JJ. You're doing a great job. But what I did learn through all of my swing trading is how institutions buy stocks.
Yeah.
And institutions have a very routine way of accumulating positions. Because let's be honest, they can't buy a stock all at once, especially the smaller cap institutional. What I would consider that, which was the main area that I played in for a long time. But now I'm dealing with bigger institutional stocks with my day trading because I want high liquidity. So exactly. I'm trading at Apple, and I'm trading Netflix, and I'm trading Roku, and I'm trading Tesla, and and as well as SPY and Qs and stuff like that. Because I want that liquidity, because I need to know that I can get in and out in a really tight spread. With what I'm trading. Yeah. But they all have personalities, and there's ways that those stocks get worked.
Exactly.
That lends itself to a certain type of trading, and I've watched it for so long that I just kind of get it. Mm-hmm. The smaller stocks, which is where I used to play all the time, are not as reliable as they used to be, and their patterns are a little different than they used to be. I'm just going to say that. I don't need to get into the explanation as to what makes them different and whatever. But I learned from, I want to buy stocks where I've got a lot of friends with way more money than me that have a vested interest in seeing them go up.
No, it's just that is one of the smarter things I've heard this week. That's great. That's exactly.
So if you're swing trading, make sure you're swing trading stocks that are going up, that have institutional ownership, where the number of institutions that are buying these stocks is growing.
Exactly.
So that you know that you have a bunch of friends around you with way more power than you that have a vested interest in wanting to see that stock go higher. So they will always be there buying support.
Exactly. It's like being a little guy in the bar and a fight breaks out, and it's good to have some big buddies around you.
That's right.
You're
just attaching yourself to really rich friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
exactly.
and riding their coattails for a little while and then getting off and going and finding another one. I mean, it's not. Yeah. It's all it is. And I don't know that it's a whole lot different in day trading if you're trading these big stocks. With the smaller stocks and the low float stocks, I mean, that's a whole nother world. I tried it for a year. I got absolutely destroyed because it's such.
I don't know.
mindset.
I haven't met anybody who has retail traded, day traded like the slow float stuff and done well at it. Consistent.
I know a couple of guys
right?
that do pretty well, but by and large, most people get killed because it's so erratic.
It
and
is.
No support. Support.
Exactly.
There's, it's just all a bunch of little guys trying to be operators.
Exactly. That's number one. And then there's always, especially in the low float stuff, there is always a fund that owns stock at a 30-40% discount to the lowest price the thing's ever traded at.
Yeah.
Because that's when they'll finance it. Because guys like me, they call me to short the thing while they're talking to the company so they can finance it at lower and lower prices. Right. So I'm leaning on it for them while they're extorting the company.
And you can lean on it, but you can't lean on Apple.
No, you can't. That's the beautiful thing about it.
I mean, that's what's so beautiful. And so it's like, these are huge companies and institutions that have to take a position and have to play that stock every single day.
Exactly. I mean, if you've got BlackRock behind you, it's like having the biggest buddy in the bar,
So anyway, so for the young traders that are out there, if you want to go trade low float stocks, have at it, but learn how to trade first. Don't make that your first adventure. Like seriously.
Exactly.
Trade stocks that have a little bit more consistency and reliability to them. Yeah. I can make a good living just trading Apple. It's not like you need to trade a $5 stock that's going to go up 40% to make a living.
Exactly. And then you have to find a new one every week.
Right. Now, and it requires you to be very, very good. You're going to get lucky. You're going to hit one. Your $5,000 account's going to turn to $8,000. You're going to think you're, a big swinging dick, and before you know it, that account's going to be worth $500 because the next one that comes along is going to show you the exact same look, and then it's just going to absolutely air pocket on you. And
exactly,
it's just the nature of that business. So make sure you're well capitalized before you go into doing that stuff, and make sure that you've traded for a while and you've learned how to do it. I mean, I'm not going to begrudge anybody trading whatever market they want to trade. That's exactly the beauty of this business.
Yeah.
But find one thing and get really freaking good at it.
Yeah,
get
exactly.
Really good and learn the market and learn yourself through that one thing. And then if you want to expand, fine. But don't go try the hardest damn thing in the world. It's like, hey, let's go play hockey before we learn how to skate.
Exactly.
Well, you're going to die.
Yeah. The one thing that, we were talking about, I said, when you came on, I asked how your day was. And, you said you had a good day. You were done early in the day.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about, people playing, and I've heard this. I heard this a lot in the last 6 months, this term house money. Oh, I'm playing with house money. And I just see red when I hear that, because I'm like, you're not at Harrah's in Las Vegas. This is a job.
Not house money. It's your money. You just earned it.
Exactly.
Guard it with your life.
Exactly.
Like I don't have the mental capacity to trade all day, especially when I'm day trading. And so I've kind of built this mindset. I've got some guys that I trade with sometimes every once in a while who have helped me with this trading to a daily nut idea. Where you kind of have a number in mind. You're trading to make a certain amount, and then when you hit it, you're done.
Yeah.
And it's very refreshing and incredibly empowering, because as I was doing this early on, I was finding I would do really well in the first hour and a half of the day. And that would be the high point of my equity for the day. And a lot of times I'd end up red and stuff. And part of it is because the opportunities aren't the same. And part of it is because your brain's fried. You're tired.
Exactly.
You're not reacting as quickly.
Yep.
I mean, it's exhausting to sit here and watch every tick and
oh yeah, definitely
and take in all this information for a full 6.5 hours or whatever it is that the market's open. It's not realistic. I don't care how smart and eager and young you guys are. You have to respect making money in this business is really hard. So if you're a day trader and you make a nice chunk in the morning, dude, call it a day.
Exactly.
And so I've been very faithful to that, and it has increased my profitability within my day trading strategies incredibly. And a lot of times I'm fortunate enough, like today I said, I by like 9 o'clock this morning, our market opens at 8:30 here. By 9 o'clock, I was like double my target, because
Yep.
I'd like to personally thank Apple for that. But it was, and I'm like, I'm done. I walked into the kitchen at like 9:05, and my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm done," which is always a scary thing to admit, because then she's got a whole list of things she wants me to do. So a lot of times I shouldn't admit to that, but
Yeah.
I'm still working, hon. Not quite there yet. But with us moving and everything, there's a lot to do right now. So it's really been, I'm getting used to it. Like, it's such a different way of thinking than anything I've ever done. I love it, but I'm not comfortable with it yet. It's like wearing some new clothes that you look really nice in, but you're not. It's like, this isn't me though, and so,
Yeah, exactly.
like, feeling stress free for the rest of the day is like awkward.
It is, isn't it?
So on those days, if you guys, for anybody that follows me, if I'm like firing off a bunch of tweets in the middle of the day, that's me doing my best not to trade. Usually I leave my office and I go sit in another room of the house or whatever, and I'm tweeting. I get these brainstorms and start rambling on. And a lot of times that's avoidance techniques.
Yeah. I mean, before that, Tom, I kind of just have a couple rapid fire questions for you, and then we'll jump to the listener questions. All right?
Yeah.
All right. So me and JJ, we were talking about this last podcast, and this is something both of us are terrible at, and I want to hear your thoughts because you have a family and kids. So when you have a bad day trading, how do you let that not spill over into your personal life?
I don't. My children always knew when I had a shitty day. It used to be a running joke. Bad day, Dad? Bad day? It'd be like, yeah, if I ever got angry with them, it would just be, oh, I see. Rough day in the market.
Yeah.
I have 4 smart asses. So
yeah, go lock your doors. Yeah, go run in your room, lock your doors.
But to answer your question, early on, it was difficult. I didn't handle it very well. I would carry my emotions from the day into my family. Over time, and a lot of that is just time. You learn how to control that better. One of the things that you build as a trader is this intense resiliency that comes from your ability to overcome, and that allows you to get your ass kicked and walk away and go, okay, I can recover. Mm-hmm. Learning how to recover is an incredibly underrated skill, in my opinion, in all aspects of life.
Very true.
Because as you fail and overcome it, and fail and overcome it, and fail and overcome it, and you keep doing that, you're building this bank of confidence that the next time somebody takes you out at the knees, you're going to be able to get up again. And so it doesn't happen overnight. It's just one of those things that you build through your life. And sometimes it doesn't feel like everything's going to be okay, but because you have an experience bank of overcoming obstacles, whatever they are, you start to realize that no one day, no one trade, no one bad situation, no one failed job, failed marriage, failed class, whatever defines you. It just doesn't.
Well,
and it's never down the road nearly as big a deal as it is at that moment when you're experiencing it. And so when you suddenly get to the point where you can draw on all that experience to know in the moment that, okay, what just happened was horrible, but I'm going to be okay. Your emotions start to even out on this stuff. I mean, it's the same in reverse about good stuff. It's like, okay, I'm not that good. I'm not that bad. Everything's kind of, and a lot of it is just life. If you're observant enough, and I encourage all of you to be really observant about your life, you will realize that the high moments and the low moments, whatever you're feeling, is nowhere is like magnified massively in the moment, but it's time to move forward. They're blips on the radar screen, both good and bad. So you learn to kind of take stuff in stride.
So Tom, who are some of your favorite people to follow, like trader wise on Twitter?
Well, you guys, of course.
My man.
Let's see. Who are some of my favorite follows? I've got some interesting, some guys that I follow just because they entertain me. Like TikTok, I think he's funny as hell. Most of the people that I follow, I think I follow because they entertain me. I don't really follow them because I think they give me great information, because I'm arrogant enough to think that whatever information I have is better than everybody else's. I've gotten to be good friends with a handful of people out there. Anthony Crudeli's gotten to be a good friend of mine, and I really like him. Pax is a really good dude for those of you that are in futures trading. Yeah. And both of those guys are awesome. If you're into trading low floats and stuff, I know Nate Michaud pretty well, and I think he's a pretty good guy. Some people may not be fans of his, but I think he's got a great heart. He's one of the smartest humans I've ever witnessed in terms of how fast his brain works. Offshore Hunter is an amazing trader, probably the best trader I've ever had the experience of being around. Michelle Koenig's her name, and she lives up in Montana half the year and lives outside of Phoenix, Arizona the other half of the year, and she's an unreal trader. And so I follow her. She doesn't post that much. There's probably a bunch of others that I'm forgetting. I wish you told me you were going to ask me that question before you did, because I'm going to get all kinds of guys going, dude, you didn't mention me.
Well, and I got to add Jimmy Jude to that list too.
Oh, Jude's hilarious. I've never met him. I just know that we're going to have a lot of fun when I do.
Yeah, no kidding.
He's a piece of work, man.
He just reminds me, of when I started, the floor was closing in Vancouver, and Jude reminds me of the guys who trained me, right? Yeah. And I really miss that. So he's a great follow. Yeah.
I enjoy some of the older guys. I also like some of the younger guys because they've got a certain swagger about them, and I like to kind of just listen and talk about my bad trades and stuff and whatever, and just know that, wow, I could kick your ass really if it really came down to it. I like carrying that. But because it's a young man's game, and it's, we old guys got to, I'm competitive. Like, I'm stupid competitive.
Tom, you played hockey yourself when you were younger?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. I could tell for sure. You got that feistiness.
Yeah, and it's a phenomenal sport, man. No, there isn't a sport out there, in my opinion. I'll get a lot of people who will disagree with me, but I don't think there's a sport out there that teaches you more about life than hockey, because you don't have to have a specific talent. Mm-hmm. But if you work your ass off, you can go pretty far in that game. Mm-hmm. And it's all about team, and it's all about, you're nowhere near, you can't do everything alone. You have to have the other four guys. It's just, but the microcosm of what it creates, and it was such an awesome experience for my boys. I will be thankful for it. the time that we got to have together as a family and me spending time with them was unreal.
Mm-hmm.
But the bonds that you build through that experience when you're traveling all the time and whatever, and it was tremendous. It's just tremendous. And it's such a cool sport. Everything's spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot like trading in a certain respect, that you kind of have plans and you kind of have ideas of what you want to see happen and what you're kind of going to do. Mm-hmm. But then the bell goes and the shit hits the fan and everything's lighting up, and you got to all of a sudden it's like everything's
exactly.
Exactly.
There's a lot of creativity.
It's not like football where it's like, okay, Bobby Joe, you block this fella, mm-hmm. and Earl, you come around and block that fella. And then you fill that hole and take out you're the lead blocker coming through the hole, and then the guy with the ball goes behind you, and that's the play. It's like, well, and you don't have that in hockey. Hockey, everything is spontaneous combustion because the play is constantly changing, and so all you have is just this loose set of rules and basic guidelines, and then everything just explodes from there. You got to mm-hmm. create off of it.
How would you describe your style, like coaching style?
Well, this is funny. Has anybody watched they got that little thing about the Oakland Raiders on HBO right now?
Oh, yeah, Hard Knocks, yeah.
Hard Knocks thing. Well, apparently, according to my wife, because we watched it for about 20 minutes last night, we're watching John Gruden, he's motherfucking guys up one side and down the other, and then he's going and slapping them on the ass and telling them he loves them, and then motherfucking them as he's walking away and whatever. She goes, "Oh, look, honey, he's just like you."
Oh, yeah, you're like Gruden? Oh. I like Gruden by the way.
I'm pretty intense.
I couldn't tell.
But as a general rule, people enjoyed playing for me. So I push people. I demand that they're curious about what they're capable of, because I think everybody is so much more capable than what they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a good coach pushes those boundaries, builds belief in people.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to tell you can do something that you don't think you can do, and then I'm going to horsewhip your ass until you do it. And then we're going to sit there and go, well, I'll be damned, look at that.
Yeah.
And it's like, now you just learned a whole new level. And it's like, it's that push. And so as a coach, I would feed my emotion into them to get them to push to higher levels.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's what a good coach does, for sure. Yeah. Like we were talking beforehand, Tom, I played hockey. And definitely not the most talented as far as like scoring, like, puck handling, but I was very gritty, you know what I mean? It was, I don't know, it was just a lot of fun. You could take out your aggression. I was a big talker, you know what I mean? I like to get in people's head, you know what I mean?
So what you're saying is you had a little trash talking ability, and you had the ability to chirp guys and whatever.
Absolutely.
Chirping's a big part of hockey.
One of my favorite moment, Tom, probably like in my high school, right? And it was a big game, like this televised event. Packed. The rink was packed, and there was a guy who was going to a D1 college. I forget, on the opposing team, and my goal was, I was going to go take him out. I was going to try to get him out of the game, and I did exactly that. I got him to throw a few punches at me, try and rip my helmet off, and good times. Oh, the school loved me afterwards. I was like a hero for that week.
Oh, you're famous as hell for doing that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like an icon.
Yeah. So, Tom, last question, and then we'll jump to the listener questions. Let's get your top 3 book recommendations.
Of any kind or in trading?
Any kind.
Well,
any kind.
I'll pick at least one from trading. Reminiscence of a Stock Operator. If you're a trader, you have to read that book. You just do. There's too much wisdom in there. There's too much knowledge that he unloads. And there's too much humanity that he exposes in that book for you not to read it.
Exactly.
I do think Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. I'm going to go way beyond 3. Sorry.
No.
And then the book that helped me the most from the specifics of what I did for 20 years from a swing trading standpoint was How to Make Money in Stocks by William O'Neill, who was the creator of the Investors Business Daily, IBD newspaper, and the whole CanSlim methodology that many people are fully aware of. That was the genesis and the basis for how I did what I did. As far as fiction books, which is my passion, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. And I think The Stand is probably one of the most incredible books ever written. I did go see chapter 2 the other night, and I was disappointed. But that's a phenomenal book also. I'd probably be here for a half an hour, so I probably shouldn't go too far into all my different literature stuff. But if you like fiction, I think there's a lot of really good stuff out there that you can read, and I strongly recommend it. It's great for your brain. It's actually a great release from trading, because sometimes you need to take your mind off the market and give it a rest. And I think that's a great way to do it. So,
all right.
Anyway, I'll leave it at those, because I could probably list 20, and we don't have that kind of time. Nobody wants to hear that.
All right. So with that, we'll jump into the listener questions, and for all the listeners, we take questions every week, no matter what type of question.
Cool.
Get them into us. We like them serious, funny, whatever. And so our first question comes from @Michael Wilson. Question for Tom. Many will want to know about trading process / management styles he uses. I'm interested in how he develops strengths and manages weakness in that process. I don't know. You kind of talked a little bit about that. I don't know. Do you want to?
We talked around it a lot and dealt with kind of how I do things and what my process was in general. And it'd take too long to explain exactly what it is in detail. Managing strengths. Well, how did he phrase that? Strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, he said he's interested in how he develops strengths and manages weaknesses in his process.
I don't know that I develop strengths. We all have our own strengths, sets of strengths and weaknesses. It's really important that you get in touch with exactly what those are. Like, my strength is I have no fear. I have no fear getting in a trade. None whatsoever. I do not consider the consequences. I assume I'm right every single time, and I aggressively go, and I don't think twice. My weakness is that I have no fear, and I go right into it.
Exactly.
So you have to kind of understand, I'm really good at executing trades. I have no problem taking a trade. The problem is that can lead to overtrading. So you don't want to take that quick trigger away. But you have to put some harnesses on yourself through a variety of rules so that it stays a strength and doesn't become a weakness. Because more often than not, whatever strengths you have, if you don't manage them, become weaknesses. It's not so much managing your weaknesses. It's more about managing your strengths so that they don't run amok and go out of control.
No, that's a very good point.
Because knowing what your weaknesses are, you learn what they are, and they get culled out of you to a certain degree, because generally they cost you money. And at some point in time, it starts to hurt a lot. To the point where you go, I've got a problem here. This is a weakness. I can't do this anymore. I can't entertain this. I can't go to this dance. Every time I go to this dance, I get drunk and make an ass out of myself. I can't go to that dance anymore. You know what I mean? And so pain usually takes care of you managing your
Right.
weakness.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't, for a long, long time, I was no longer allowed to day trade because it only cost me money because I didn't have the emotional maturity to manage myself. I just knew it. And I got tired of working really hard in my swing trades, and I'd keep this side account so that I could day trade some every once in a while. And I'd just barf back half my profits.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get so mad that I gave back some of my money doing something I'm not supposed to do that I became obsessed with the fact that I had to get that money back to right the ship because I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing in the first place. So we need to like erase it from our memories. And then that loss would only get exacerbated because I wouldn't let it go. I mean, those are the demons you live with. I know I have those demons. So you lose enough money and your weaknesses get fixed real quickly because either you go to zero and you go have to get some other job, or you get real with yourself and you say, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah. And shout out to Michael at Michael Wilson for the question. We appreciate it. Next question comes from at Wing Girl Trade. Ray and JJ, how did you get a highly respected trader and individual like Haney to appear with you two clowns?
They paid me a lot of money.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he kind of seems like a guy we would hang out with, so he seems like he fits right in with us. So, I don't know. JJ, anything else to add?
She's a troublemaker, that one.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think we're gonna ban you from asking questions for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, shout out to you, Wing Girl Trade, for the question.
I like how she exactly. Can we go back over that again? Exactly how did she categorize me? That was really nice.
Oh, highly respected. Highly respected.
Wow, that's nice.
Trader and individual, not just a trader, an individual.
And individual. Wow.
I would like my children to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll make sure. Yeah, force them to listen to this. Here we go. Okay, so next question is from another friend of the pod, at M Trading Media. JJ, how is the treadmill coming along?
You know, I went to go buy the treadmill, and that guy flaked on me, so I just went to the gym last night anyway. But I will get my used treadmill. Being the cheap bastard that I am, I will find a good one cheap.
I'd sell you mine because
all right.
Yeah, from up to Saskatchewan, yeah.
Do they even ship to Saskatchewan, JJ?
Yes, they do. We deliver my moose.
Yeah, by moose.
By moose. I love it.
All right.
I'm glad you're getting one though.
Yeah. All right.
Because that exercise is everything.
Exactly.
I'm going running right after this.
Yeah, well, you know, Anthony Crudelli, we're going to have him on the show. He and I are both kind of heart attack buddies. So
I know.
All right.
Yeah.
He's a fitness freak right now. It's really embarrassing and annoying, and
I know.
Like I literally for the last 2 months, because he did some 2 mile run or something, and then
some marathon or something, or
just 2 miles. No, he doesn't. I mean, but he ran 2 miles really fast and set his time. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so I've been like changing all of my training stuff because I'm trying to I want to run a half marathon. And so I've been kind of working on sort of a training thing. And I got so flustered because of how fast he ran those 2 miles. And I'm like, I can't come within 3 minutes of that. I'm like, I've got to figure out how to do that. And I can't do it. I can't come anywhere close.
Yeah.
Of course, he's got like 12 years on me. So.
Oh yeah. Well, that's.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I quit doing cardio like 8 years ago. I just catch me lifting weights. I just stated that. Anyway.
I got to do more of that, apparently.
He doesn't lift any weights when he goes to the gym. He just goes there to look at girls.
JJ, I multitask.
It's a valid reason.
It's a valid reason. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
He works out at one of those, kind of Beverly Hills type gyms. It's not a real gym. There's no chalk or blood or any kind of thing like that. That's you don't work out in a real gym.
Oh God,
Neil, what do you expect?
Oh man, you guys. All right. Let's move on. Next question. We got 2 more. Next one is from at ReadyRD101. And so Tom, bear with me a little bit because this one's for you and it's kind of like a loaded question, right?
Oh, okay.
So I'm curious how Tom manages the stress of being a full-time trader, Does he have monthly goals? What will he do when there is no trend in the market? How much trading capital did he start with as a full-time trader? You kind of want to tackle this one at a time?
Yeah.
Okay, so first part was how do you manage the stress of being a full-time trader?
I don't have a choice, do I?
No.
I mean, that's kind of a rough shot answer. I mean, how do you manage the stress? Well, I exercise a lot, and that helps. I work very hard at investing myself in other things so that trading doesn't define me and doesn't own my life. I for the longest time, I stayed very actively involved, as I've said several times, with my kids. And when I'm engaged and involved with the kids, even if I'd had a horrible day, I stop thinking about it because I'm more, if I'm watching my boys play hockey, I could have lost 20 grand that day and I could care less because I'm watching my boys play hockey. There's nothing better than that.
Right.
So it's always, for me, good days, bad days, whatever, I've dealt with enough in my life to know that whatever happens bad in the market, I've dealt with worse and I've made it. And whatever happens in the market, nothing's more important than my family and my time with my family. And so it's just kind of keeping your priorities in proper place so that you don't ever let trading and your work define who you are. You let the other valuable things in your life define you. So, I don't know if that answers the question or not, but that's sort of how I feel.
No,
that makes
no.
sense.
I think that's a great take. Yeah, no, that seems like the optimal approach, honestly. All right, so next part of the question, does he have monthly goals? I know you said you had daily goals. Do you have monthly?
Well, I now have daily goals, or a daily target, I should say. Here's what I've always done. I've got a trading account. And I take money out of that trading account and put it into our checking account every single month. It's a fixed amount to cover our monthly expenses. Whether I make money or I don't make money, that money comes out. So I don't take out, because my income, especially when I was swing trading, was sporadic. It would come in chunks. And so in my mind, I'm always trying to get back to where I was after that money came out, because it goes out right at the end of the month. Didn't always work that way, but I always knew that I had a big month coming. So that's how I did it. It helped me. I tried it a couple of times, taking all my expenses out for the year in one lump sum, and it didn't work as well. So I found for myself that monthly withdrawals, come hell or high water, whether it was a good month, a bad month, whether I made money, I lost money, out it comes, and the bills get paid like it's your income.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how I've always done it. And it's kept me stable from an emotional standpoint in terms of all the ups and downs of how the account bounced around.
Mm-hmm. What will he do when there is no trend in the market?
I used to do nothing or work really hard at doing nothing. Because when my methodologies were in favor and I was focused and energized and on top of it, it paid me really well in a very, very short period of time. So I didn't worry about it and I just waited, because the more I was able to wait until all the odds were stacked in my favor, the better money I made. So I was able to finally, over time, build this mantra in my head that doing nothing was making me money. Because if the environment wasn't right, whatever I did was going to cost me money.
Exactly. Yeah.
And my stats bared it out. So I got really rigid about knowing that, okay, the environment's not there right now. I'm just doing nothing. People are like, well, what about this stock? What about that stock? Well, this one's taken off. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm just out.
Exactly.
I'm going to play golf or whatever,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hard thing to do.
Right.
All right. And then this is the last part of the question. How much trading capital did you start with as a full-time trader?
I started with 50 grand. I'll just be blunt. I started with 50 grand. I lost it all. I had a dad that loved me a lot and believed in me and loaned me a chunk of change because he knew I was making progress and getting better. And that accountability helped me tremendously get really laser focused. Because I wanted to pay him back. And that was kind of one of the things that got me going. And I started to do really well after that. And he was kind enough over time to just say, keep it, which was really nice. So, yeah. So cool. I'll always be thankful for that boost, because I know a lot of people probably don't have that luxury. And so, to be honest, that was how it kind of panned out for me.
Yeah. Wow.
And from there, I grew and I grew. And then there was a period of time actually where I had 3 or 4 people, my dad being one of them, who I managed their money, and just took a percentage of the profits. Mm-hmm. And that also helped me build my pot.
Right.
I did that for about 3 years, and my pot at that point, finally, between my money and the fees that I was generating off of that, because I had a couple of really good years, was enough that I felt like I had enough to really make a go. And I gave them all their money back because I couldn't stand managing other people's money.
Wow.
Yeah. And then since then, I've just kind of been doing my own thing.
Yeah. Well, thanks Tom for sharing that, man. Like, that's powerful, man. I mean, for you to get to where you are today after losing $50,000, I couldn't even imagine. That had to have been devastating. You know what I mean? And
it was pretty humbling. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, but I thank you for sharing it, because that's encouraging for the people out there who are struggling. You know what I mean? It's like,
I was way too aggressive, way too early.
You play yourself.
Way too aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was smart enough to only put up, I only started with 10 grand, and then I added another 10 grand. And then I was doing it slowly, but I was still way too aggressive and was in way too big of a hurry to make a lot of money. And it slowed my process down tremendously. It took me probably 3 years to really become profitable consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I could have shortened that if I'd not been so aggressive. Like I wanted to make money. Like I'd have 2 or 3 days where I'd consistently trade small shares or whatever on a relative basis and be like, oh, I got this. Okay, let's go. And it's like, it's just stay patient, stay small, build just this huge bank of consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Trade 50 shares, trade one fucking micro contract, trade
exactly,
and say, okay, if you're a futures trader, try and pull 15 points, pull 10 points, forget your commissions, pull 10 points a week out of the market. Something stupid, simple, but just do it week after week after week after week after week and build that consistency. Because what that's doing is that's feeding your brain with confidence that you've got a reliable system. And that is so important. And then it becomes commonplace to you. Mm-hmm. And you start learning the nuances within that. And you start seeing how, okay, I can actually stretch this out and make 15 points a week because I'm shortcutting trades. I'm taking them off before I need to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. and remove the stigma of making money as long as you possibly can. Because when you start to scale, it creates its own demons. Trust me. It's, and JJ, I know you know this. I mean,
Oh yeah.
It's a whole different world when all of a sudden, I mean, if we can talk in futures language, you're trading one contract to trading 10 contracts or trading 20 contracts. It's a whole different animal.
Yep.
Like your brain starts to explode inside your head. And it's like,
It is. It's just one extra, one in front of a one, but
it's
boy,
huge.
the mental weight of size, is as a retail trader, because I mean, I'm used to trading size, right? As from the institutional side, but not with my own account, So that is a big thing.
And I hit a level with my swing trading that I just could never get past in terms of my, position size and stuff like that, where I would try and I would get dysfunctional every single time because I just couldn't handle the weight of a certain size trade. So
Good stuff. Last question we got, and this is from Raj in our Micro E-Minis Future Room. Question is, what is the DOM?
That's just the depth of market order book. It's just where you enter your orders. DOM is depth of market, DOM.
I wish stocks had a depth of market.
They've got level 2, but it's meaningless.
I've asked the guys that I'm trading with. I'm like, do you guys have TradeStation's got you can do stocks off of a DOM on TradeStation.
Okay.
They actually have it. They're the only ones I've ever seen. I'm sure there's probably others, but I would love it because I love the way that the futures, in terms of managing orders and stuff,
you
can just click and pull and all of that and
slide
see
them.
what's out there.
Yeah.
And slide them up. It's just, to me, it's a lot easier. There's probably a lot of execution tricks that I still don't know that are out there for day trading for stocks. I just love how easy the DOM is in terms of order execution and order management.
I think Thinkorswim has one too, if memory serves.
Do they really?
I think so. I think I've seen Peter Resnicek use that on Shadow Trader in one of his videos I think he was trading Apple or something like that. But
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check that out. So I've got Thinkorswim. I mean, I don't really have an account there, but I've got it. I'll check that out.
Yeah, they call it Active Trader. It's a tab called Active Trader. Yeah.
All right, I'll look at it.
All right, and then shout out to Raj in the Micro E-Minis Future Room for the question, and shout out to the whole team over there, mini team, mini squad, whatever we call ourselves over there. And so,
you guys are building quite a business over there. It's growing.
It is. I'm really, like you were saying, not to try and teach people. I'm just trying to teach people how to see.
Yes.
And my whole the whole goal of me is to make myself obsolete, so I get them to a point where they don't need me.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I wish there were more like you.
Yeah, no, I mean, and speaking as someone who is a student and who's like learning, because I don't know if you know, Tom, like my first go around of trading, I was trading the low floats, the penny stocks, and I blew up half my account, and then I was like, all right, F this, I'm going straight back to poker. You know what I mean? Like I got no chance in this. And now learning from JJ, and I equate it to poker, and I don't know if you're gonna get this analogy or others are gonna get this analogy, but like with poker, like I'm a theory-based player. Right. I play off of, GTO strategy, game theory, optimal. And like, that's how JJ comes across to me, is like teaching. He doesn't teach you what to do. This is not where to trade. This is not what to do, but he's like he said, how to see. And then from there, incorporate your own style. So like, it's something I really appreciate. And I know people in the room do.
Well, and I know market profile and seeing the market that way is a really, I'm in the process of starting to learn it because I know it's going to help me with my stock trading.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I don't ever trade futures, because the stocks I'm trading are so heavily influenced by the futures, to know where those key supports are, where the key resistance is, where price needs to go back and retest.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
All that stuff. It just adds a whole nother layer that makes you that much smarter with whatever stock trading that you're doing, if that's what if that's what you're doing.
It really helps, and you can throw a stock on market profile and see structure, which is really. I wish I had that.
Okay, that was my question. Can I do a TPO chart on like stocks and it'll be the same kind of data?
It's
I mean,
just
I don't
amazing.
see why.
It's
like Tom. This still fascinates me. Jim Dalton, he used market profile for real estate, right, JJ?
that's the story. Yeah, I've heard him say that story. It's that man is just amazing. I have a buddy, odds trader, and we were like, we have to find a way to download his knowledge, because he's just, the amount of knowledge that guy has is just scary. Yeah.
It's awesome, and he's
Oh my
influenced so
goodness,
many
yeah.
traders, so many. It's
Mhm.
crazy cool.
All right. Any parting thoughts before we get off, Tom?
I think I've pretty much said everything that. I mean, I didn't know what we were going to talk about, and we ended up. We're now an hour and a half into this, and so I don't know about you, but I'm pretty wiped out just from talking.
Yeah.
It's hard stuff. No, I'm good. We never really got back. The one thing that JJ said in last week's podcast when you guys were talking, and I won't spend more than 2 minutes on this, but I want to reemphasize it for everybody that listens to the podcast. He said, it's amazing what you can see when you don't have the weight of a position on. It's probably one of the most profound statements that I've heard. And I so fully agree with it. So many people that I run into get stuck in trades that are down. They're in losses that they don't want to let go of because they think it's coming back. And it may very well come back. But the point I want to say to people is, you can't think clearly, and you can't see the market, and you can't see other opportunities as long as you're buried in a trade. Because if you're in a trade at a loss, your brain works totally different than if you're holding a trade with a gain. If you're holding a trade with a gain, you can see the market and see if there's other things going on. But if you're holding a trade with a loss, all you do is see the market through that loss. And so your greatest avenue to future success is just to cut it and get your brain back to neutral so you can see again. I've done this. I can't tell you how many times I've just cut losses only to then go right back into that stock where I cut that loss because I was able to think clear enough to realize, no, I still want to be in there.
Very true.
But sometimes when you're clouded and you're buried in a loss that's grinding on you emotionally, and so you can't see what's going on, just sell it.
Exactly.
You've already lost the money.
Yeah. Just get rid of it.
It's gone. Get rid of it. And the other thing is, where else would that money, like if you're a long trader, like I'm primarily a long trader, and it's like I'm buried in a position, it's like, okay, is my capital in the best place it can be right now? Is the stock that I'm in at a loss on, is that the most likely stock to go up right now? And the answer 99 times out of 100 is no, it's not. So that's why you want to take that money and put it somewhere where it can be more effective. It's just don't hold on to it because you're letting that loss identify you, and it's just a loss. It's only money. It's only money. Just move on.
Definitely.
And get clarity in your head by getting to cash, getting to neutral. There's so much power in that. Anyway, I thought it was a really cool thing that you said, and I love the way that you said it. That's all I got.
All right. Absolutely. Tom, thanks for coming on. Thanks for dropping a bunch of nuggets of wisdom on us. I learned a lot. Really appreciate it. And yeah, everyone go follow him on Twitter at Kenny4, right?
Yeah, at Kenny4. Thanks for having me.
Yep. If you don't
yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And follow JJ as well at VWAP Trader 1. Yeah, if you guys enjoy the podcast, rate and review it, like it, whatever, do all that good stuff. We really appreciate that. If you guys want to learn from JJ, come visit our trading room, Micro E Futures microeminifutures.com. You can find it somewhere. We're out here. With that, we're out. So for the gorilla, or Tommy Two Time, I'm the philosopher pimp. Have a good one, guys.
All right. Have a good night.